Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities such as new companies and potential business partners and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GridNet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Women in Motorsports. Joe Santiago here, along with Daniel Zeri from Racers and Girls Behind the Helmet, and we have Ben Schneider joining us today on the program. We're going to have a lot of racing to discuss about, but first, before we get started, a big thank you to Colin, the show, Mark, and Robin for keeping us on the air through Patreon. You too can keep us on the air through Patreon or a one-time investment through Buy Me a Coffee. Link in the video description for both websites. Of course, they're a great help to keeping us on the air and going to the track. Ben, I know you were over in Sonoma, but we'll start with Daniel. You were over at Le Mans for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, where we had 5 female racers in the event.
Hello, everyone. Yes, as you said, it was the big weekend last time for the 24 Hour Le Mans. As you mentioned, there were 5 races on that I was following. It should have been 6 actually, because of course Catherine Legg was also supposed to do the race for the first time. Obviously, she has such a huge resume, but Le Mans was still missing on her CV, so it was quite interesting to see her. Unfortunately, the Hardpoint team pulled out of the event before, and so they passed on their entry to the Absolute Racing Porsche, which was racing in the GTE AM class. But still, we had 3 in Iron Dames with Michel Gatting, Ryle Fry, and Sarah Bovey that are contesting so many racing championships this year in ELMS, GT World Challenge Europe, and WEC, of course, and Le Mans for their 4th time. Even though for Sarah was only her 2nd time at Le Mans, the other 2 drivers were actually at their 4th time, and all the times they finished P9. So it was they also were in a little bit of a mission to improve that. And also we had Sophia Flörsch at her 3rd time in Le Mans. And for the first time, a rookie at that big race, Lilo Wado in the Richard Mille Racing LMP2 and entry number 1. And so that was she's also had her first time in international sports car, coming from GT4 based Alpine Europa Cup. So it was quite interesting to see her making her debut in the big race at Le Mans. She's also French, so of course she was really one of the fan favorite. Speaking about fans, it was the first time since COVID that we had the public back at Le Mans. 244,000 spectators last weekend, so quite a lot of attendance. 4th number of attendance in Le Mans history. So it was very cool to see the full Le Mans experience back. And speaking about the qualifying, a lot of those teams had quite high ambitions coming into the race, because of course Sophia Flörsch, we know that she has a lot of good ambitions in the European Le Mans Series. She has pace to finish probably in the top 3 in every race. So she also had quite a good lineup with Algarve Pro. She was partnering Jack Aitken, so driver that has also done a Formula One race. and John Falb, he is actually an AM, so there was a pro-AM entry, but he is quite a fast AM, so they had pretty good high hopes for that race. For Lille Wadu, she's racing together with Charles Milesi, another driver that was a Le Mans rookie, and Sébastien Ogier, so a very a rally legend, but actually at his first year in sports car racing. So that was quite a team that they didn't really know where they stood before the race. Iron Dames also, where we know that they are trying to get on the podium in basically every race. So they also had very high ambitions for this one. And they were running in contention for top 3 and top 5 throughout the practice sessions. And Rahel Frey did the qualifying session, the 1 hour qualifying session on Wednesday. She made history because for the first time a woman entered the hyperpole class on Thursday. They finished P6, so that was quite a good result for them. And she told us that she was very happy for the whole project, not only for herself and making history, but for the whole project. They are definitely proving that they belong to such a competitive elite like in Le Mans and WEC. For Sophia Flörsch, it was a little bit more of an unfortunate qualifying session because Jack Aitken had a lap delayed for track limits. And then he had a red flag, and then rain came, so they really couldn't set a significant lap time, and they started P21 in LMP2. For Charles Milesi, who did the qualifying for the number 1 Richard Mille Racing entry, similarly, he finished P7, so he just missed that 1 position to the hyperpole session. But still, the race, of course, was very long, and so they were all trying to. They had the pace to probably finish in the top 10, all of them, and probably even in the top 3 and top 5. But the start of the race was really unfortunate for 2 of those teams, namely for Algarve Pro for the number 47 of Sophia Flörsch and for the Iron Dames. Flörsch had a overheating issue straight at the start on the first lap, and a gearbox issue, so she was stuck in first gear throughout the first lap. They lost 5 laps just straight at the race start, and this is never what you want from a 24-hour race. From then on, it was really difficult for them to recover. Obviously, they did their maximum, and they were very fast. They were the fastest car on that class, in that category. And that also is something that you are a little bit. It's tough to digest because, of course, at the end of the race, that you have the pace probably to win, but they finished P20 in LMP2 and P5 in Pro-Am. So that was definitely not the race that they wanted, even though they had quite a clean race and they could recover 3 out of the 5 laps. They were behind just right at the start. And we actually talked with Sophia before the race, and we have an audio clip of that when she was just hoping, and she had still high ambitions for that race.
Well, I mean, I'm going to Le Mans for the 3rd time in a row, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I think actually with Jack and John, who's the amateur, but he's actually one of the best amateurs out there, and he did Le Mans already 3 times, so he knows what's important there. I think we really have chances to, you always say you want to win, but I really think we have the chances to win, and the car and the team lineup. In Le Mans, you never know what's happening. Most of the time, if something happens, it's not in your control. So yeah, we need a lot of luck, but yeah, I think I mean, I'm just like get goosebumps talking about it, because Le Mans is going to be good, hopefully, this year. To be honest, Le Mans is everything, and you're working for Le Mans, and the whole week is really emotional, really stressful, but amazing at the same time. And yeah, I think because it's the first time for me actually doing Le Mans, actually doing endurance races, knowing that we can finish on the podium makes it even more special. And Le Mans is going to be good.
Yeah, obviously after qualifying, they had a little bit on the back foot, and the race didn't went her way. But still, I think they proved that they belong to the top 3, and without that problem at the start, she could have probably, well, definitely a podium, I would say, definitely probably a victory. Iron Dames had a very similar race also, because they were pretty much out of contention after the second lap, after a tire puncture for Michael Gatting, who had started the race. And after that, also they had pretty much the perfect race. They were really recovering lap after lap. They did manage to climb the order quite a bit from P27 after the first really the first 20 minutes. Really, they were back into the top 10 during the night, when both Rael Fry and Michael Gatting and really monster stints. They were all double stinting through the night. Also, Sarah Bovey had a very competitive night, even though she had a contact with an LMP2 car at one point. But they were back into the top 10, and in the last couple of hours, Michael Gatting was back behind the wheel of the number 85 Ferrari, and they managed to get into P7. So despite that difficult start, they still managed to get their best result at Le Mans, even though they were very much disappointed, not only because of the puncture, obviously, but also of the balance of performance that this year the Ferrari, they had very unfavorable BOP. So Porsches and Aston Martins were really much faster on the straights, and we know that Le Mans, the Circuit de la Sarthe, is heavy on top speed, and so with that BOP, they were pretty much fighting with all the other Ferraris, and they were second in between that. So still a positive one, and we spoke with all three of them, so we can probably hear what they had to say after the race.
Yeah, I mean, of course the start was rough. First of all, we could quickly see the Porsches were way faster. That was pretty painful. I didn't expect it, to be honest. And then after one lap, I got a puncture, and I had to slow down so we didn't have any damage on the car. So I slowed down a lot and drove slowly back to the pit. So we lost quite a lot of time there. But in the end of the day, I mean, we knew the race was long. We kept going. Sarah, Rahel, they did amazing. Whenever they were in the car, we all pushed. And in the end, we managed to bring the car back in P7. Yeah. To be honest, it's not something I'm super happy with, because we came here with a lot higher expectations. But in the end, this is what we could do with the BOP we had, to be honest.
Exactly. You gotta take what you take.
Exactly.
You told me Friday that you didn't want P9. It's not P9.
Definitely. As we said, we broke the curse of the P9. That's one. It's done. It's over. Now, at some point we really thought we would end the P9. To be honest, at some point we thought it would.
I'm leaving.
Thank you, Michel.
And yeah, that was like, no, this is not possible. It's not gonna happen. So we decided, like, let's push again, more. Let's try even more. We have had a crazy race. To be honest, I think on track we didn't leave a tenth out there, really, and. It was great to drive, because I felt like I've pushed every limits I had, like before from last year and everything. During the night we did some very strong stints. In the morning we had some great strategic moves, and like for me what we did today is the spirit of endurance racing, and that's very strong, and that's why we're here. Of course we are here to do result, and as Michi said, I agree with her. P7 is definitely not what we are aiming for. We know we can do better than that, but considering everything, coming back from P last with almost a lap down to like P7's like less than 50 seconds away from the first Ferrari of because let's be honest, the competition was for us essentially the Ferraris. It's a good result. We have to be happy with that, but I think it's going to take us probably 24 hours more to realize it.
Yeah, bad start, happier ending, but still not the happy ending we wished for and we worked for. The race didn't went out well. We were surprised by the balance of performance during the race itself. Basically, Aston Martin, Porsche, they had completely their own race. We finished as second best Ferrari, which is good. But as I said, we definitely dreamed that we can finish higher up. didn't happen, so means we have to come back and we work even harder as we already did. We are driven by dreams, we never give up, means we just keep on going.
Lily, what was actually the surprise of this race, because with so little experience in sports cars and in endurance racing, during the 24-hour Le Mans was quite a big challenge already for her. But she had a very untroubled race, clean. Never made a mistake throughout the whole weekend, which is, when you're trying to get to the limit in such a challenging and difficult and demanding also physically track, it can happen. But she did really well, and they finished in the top 10, so in P9 in LMP2, even though they had a time penalty, a 1 minute time penalty, which is was quite heavy when Charles Milesi, after 3 hours. So really at the beginning of the race, he crossed the white line at the pit entry, so that was quite a harsh penalty for them. But they did manage to bounce back, and finishing in the top 10 at the first Le Mans 24-hour is a very big result for her. She was very happy about that after the race, and they will be back on track in Monza for the 6th hour of the WEC. In 3 weeks' time, so we will be there again to report from that one.
And that's going to be very exciting. 6 hours, WEC is going to be back. A lot of fun, and of course, for all our fans that watch endurance sports car racing, be sure to follow the Grid EPI that was just announced yesterday. Very excited for that, and of course, Ben, along with Le Mans, we had IndyCars and one of the best road courses maybe considered in the United States, Road America.
That's right, Joe. For the first time since 2013, we had 2 individual women drivers competing against each other, alongside each other in an IndyCar Series race. Of course, Tatiana Calderon is continuing her rookie season. She's only doing the street and road courses, of course. J.R. Hildebrand is taking over that car on the ovals. But driving for AJ Foyt Enterprises, that is, Simona de Silvestro also made her return to the IndyCar Series with Beretta Autosport. Of course, they did the Indy 500 together last year. They weren't able to put that deal together this year, but they have a 3-race deal on the back end of 2022. This was the first of those 3 races. Calderon came home 25th, while De Silvestro picked up a 21st place finish, worked her way up. She had to start dead last in the grid, so she made up a few places throughout the race. But we've seen De Silvestro have many strong runs of the series before. Of course, her career best finish is 2nd place. She's had some great battles with Tony Kanaan in the past, a couple of podiums, and even as recently as 2015, got a 4th place finish, the crazy New Orleans race with Andretti Autosport. So, Joe, we'll start with you. What do you think are some reasonable expectations for the Beretta team and Simona in particular as they work through the rest of this short 3-race deal this season?
Some good goals for this short 3-race deal is just simply log the laps, finish the races. I know I seem to say that quite a bit, but getting that track time, the data for the team, the engineer, the mechanics, to make that car better and better each and every week will just help them improve each and every week. Last thing you want is to go out there, get caught up in a crash, miss out on a big portion of the race. We saw this team last year, Indy 500, didn't exactly go their way. So I think this approach of the 3 races to try to get to a full-time effort is really smart. And with Simona, the experience you highlight from her, she's phenomenal. She could easily get this team to where they'll be in a competitive state for sure to go full-time, especially mid-pack. And with Simona behind the wheel, especially if we get a race, because I believe one of her podiums was in a rain event, I would not count her out for a podium because the experience she has all over the world really speaks volume. And having her there to just get the laps, get the finishes, and get the data for the team, I think is really handy.
Daniel, yeah,
I would definitely agree with that, with what has been said. Simona definitely has the experience, even though she raced without the aeroscreen, which we know that changes a little bit the balance of the car. So I think she still had to get up to grips a little bit with that car. She didn't have any testing prior to the race. So I think with a couple more races under her belt and probably hopefully some testing, she's definitely one to watch and to probably get back into top 15 at least, or being in the midfield. For regarding Tatiana, I think well, she had probably the most unluckiest weekend ever, because they run into all kind of trouble. So she didn't have her engineer because he was sick; he couldn't come to the race. They ran out of fuel because the tires, the fuel calculations were wrong. They had the pit limiter set wrong, so they ended up with some penalties for the pit limiter, for exceeding the speed in the pit lane. They also had some other issues. They couldn't restart the car after a pit stop because there was no fuel in the fuel pump. So I think hopefully she's done now with bad luck, and she can probably get back into her program of actually keep learning into IndyCar machinery from the next one, which is in Mid-Ohio, which is the track that she first tested last year. So she knows the track a little bit.
Yeah, of course, Simona obviously was away for a while and only has the one race with the aero screen under her belt, the Indy 500. So you got to give her a little bit of time to get back, get used again to the IndyCar Series and to how these cars drive. Obviously, the chassis hasn't changed too much since 2015. It's still the basic DW12, but obviously there is the aero screen. There have been some changes to the aero kits, so it will take some time to get used to that. And anytime you start a new team, I know they had to deal with Penske to get some help last year at Indy, and now Ed Carpenter seems to be pretty involved with what's going on there at Paretta. So they've got some good people working there, but it is going to take some time to get their feet under themselves and maybe move up into the midfield a little bit. And Tatiana as well. It's been a bit of a rough start to the season for her, I know, but I know she's continuing to gain experience, and hopefully we'll see that continue to pay off as the season goes on. Now, Joe, I know we've got some exciting news over on the NASCAR side of things. I followed the West Series for a long time. I certainly remember Julia Landauer. I'm a big reality competition show fan as well. I remember when she was on Survivor all those years ago. So it's cool to see her back again. I understand we've got some news on that front.
Yeah, very exciting to hear that. On Tuesday, it was announced that Julia will be making her NASCAR Xfinity Series debut this season. She's going to be over at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. That is when the NASCAR Xfinity Series will be racing there. She'll be in the number 45 Alpha Prime Boss Beauty Garage XYZ Chevrolet at New Hampshire Speedway. Now, that race is going to be on Saturday, July 16th. So it's going to be really interesting to see, especially with NASCAR in the short format they have of a practice session, qualifying, and then the race, how it's going to work out with her first track time being on Friday. Tommy Joe Martin from Alpha Prime Racing, general manager. We've been trying to get Julia in our race car all year long. So obviously there's been some great excitement for having Julia in the car. And Daniel, starting with you, when it comes to Julia, you've been following her career, especially in Euro NASCAR. How big is this for her career, and how does her career overall in Euro NASCAR been reflective of what she could do?
Well, yes, I'm very happy for Julia because she really needed a break from last year. She couldn't race last year due to all the COVID restrictions and also coming to Europe back and forth. It was not really easy for her, but she did very well in Euro NASCAR. Also, the year before, she was racing in the Pinty Series in Canada, if I'm not mistaken, and she did pretty well. She had top 10s and top 5 finishes. But definitely in Euro NASCAR, she did very well. She was consistently in the top 5. Also had an outright podium at the season finale in Valencia. And obviously the stock car scene in Europe is not as competitive as it is in the US. So she had quite a lot of experience, to be honest. So it was, she also had a good car, and she was also in a pretty decent team in Euro NASCAR. But she did very well, and I knew that she was actually trying to get back into another opportunity in Euro NASCAR. But this opportunity, of course, in the Xfinity is really, really good for her. Of course, it's a much higher level series, and hopefully she can do well, because she definitely deserves a seat in one of these championships.
Yeah, hopefully a good race. Now, Ben, you follow the Xfinity Series, especially with Grant Audincourt, which you host each and every week. And you focus on the smaller teams too, with NASCAR as well, with Brock Beard. what level is Alpha Prime racing against, especially against some of the familiar teams like Junior Motorsports, Gibbs, and Calderon?
Well, it's a brand new team started by Tommy Joe Martins this year. Of course, Tommy Joe used to own Martins Motorsports, and this is kind of what's evolved out of that. It's a 2-car operation, and it certainly is not at the level of a Junior Motorsports or Joe Gibbs Racing or Colleague Racing or any of those teams in the Xfinity Series. But that's not to say that they can't be capable of putting in solid runs. Joe, we were just in Portland, and we saw Andy Lally get that 44 car up to the front towards the end of the race as well. So, you get the right driver in the right situation. Maybe a win might be a little bit of a stretch, but you can certainly not count them out for a strong top 10 or top 15 result if the cards fall right and everything goes their way. And, like we said, Julia's got a lot of experience in what was then K&N West, driving for Bill McAnally Racing and Sunrise Ford Racing, arguably the 2 top teams over in that series, and pretty much did everything but win a race. I think she was 4th in points one year and had a best career finish of 2nd in that series. So we know that she can drive, and she can drive a stock car very, very well. So if you get her in the right situation with this team, I would not count out, a solid top 20 finish when we get to New Hampshire next month.
Yeah, New Hampshire next month is going to be really exciting. Everything you said about her racing highlights, I think it really shows the potential she has. And yeah, we saw Andy Lally get in the lead, contending. I think, no, it was Snyder that got the second stage win, I recall. But
yeah,
Lally
he was up there, though. I mean, Andy's obviously a very good road course driver, so he was. He took that car. He took that car to some good places up in Portland.
Yeah, so a lot of potential for Julia, and of course that's going to be July 15th when she has the 30-minute practice session, then goes straight into qualifying, then the race on July 16th at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, a Saturday race. Now, Ben, speaking about Saturday, I know you had a busy Saturday, especially with the Camping World Truck Series, ARCA West and East, and Iowa, Sonoma, all over the place.
Yeah, it's hard for me to follow the combo race there because obviously we were primarily focused on the media center stuff in Sonoma. But in the West Series, of course, we have Bridget Burgess, who we spoke to at Portland. She's running the full season there for her family-owned team. And she was able to back up her strong 7th-place finish, which tied her career best in Portland with another top 10 at Sonoma. But certainly not an easy journey to get there. She only managed 18th in qualifying and admitted after the race that the car was not set up as well as it was for Portland. And she was also involved in a bit of an incident with Rod Nealand that collected Sebastian Arias as well. He was just kind of an innocent bystander in that whole deal. Now, Burgess was able to carry on, and she was running 15th on what would ultimately be the last lap of the race, or last green flag lap of the race, at least. There were some time constraints with Cup Series practice coming in, so ARCA shortened the race. We won't go into all the details of why there, but there was a 5-car pile-up down in turn 11. She was able to avoid that and come home in 10th place for the end result. And here's what she had to say about her race weekend at Sonoma.
All right, Bridget, so you picked up a top 10, ended up surviving all the carnage at the end, but I have to ask you, can you take me through what happened with the 68 on the track?
Well, it was just a tough race in general. Unfortunately, we did not have the turks that we should have. We struggled a lot through the corners and a lot through any of the fast section in the cornering, but we got it done. And yeah, we had some difficulties with other drivers, but we still finished the race. We finished strong in 10th place. So yeah.
How much momentum can you take into the second half of the season coming off the 2 straight top 10s?
We're definitely happy with it. We want to keep it going. Right now, the next race is coming up, and we have to switch this back over to oval and stay strong for the oval races. And then hopefully, I'm excited for the Portland race in September. So another road course coming up.
Well, I did ask about that incident with Nealand, and unfortunately, she really kind of didn't give a straight answer there. She did mention that she had some issues with some other drivers out on the track, so I figured we'd take this chance to break it down for ourselves and see what happened here. And I have to say, I'm curious as to whether or not something happened a little bit before this, because right off the bat, you can see Arias back here. He's the last car in the frame as they go to enter the quarter. He's more on the ideal racing line right there. Nealand is a bit to the inside, and you see Bridget's way out to the outside here. Luis Torres from the podium finish, who's also a photographer, takes some great photos, doing some great work out there. He mentioned that he was up in turns 2 and 3 and did see a little bit of contact, but didn't think much of it because he didn't think it was going to go any further than it did. Obviously, he was wrong here as we play the clip. And you can see, because they're both offline, it's 2 drivers going into the corner trying to claim it for themselves, where really only 1 car can fit in. And you see Bridget kind of forces Nealand up onto the curb there. He's not going to take too kindly to that, so he responds by forcing her off the track a little bit. Bridget's obviously not happy about that, so she comes back here and ends up getting into the left rear quarter panel. And this is where she just finishes him off. It ultimately spins him out. And you can see Arias is coming in here, obviously with a lot more momentum because he's just running a hot lap. Doesn't have to worry about battling another car. These two have obviously been making contact for several seconds now, so all their momentum is gone. Arias comes flying through, and it's just absolutely in the wrong place at the wrong time. You can see the camera's going to cut off here, but this other angle will show what happens to him. Just T-bones the left side of Nealand's car, and unfortunately, that's the end of both of their races. Like I mentioned, Bridget was able to recover from that and go on to pick up a top 10 finish, but certainly probably not as clean of a race as she experienced in Portland. And like she mentioned, didn't have the car set up exactly how she would have wanted. So unfortunate for her, but she will have another opportunity on a road course like she was mentioning. The series will return to Portland. I know, Joe, you're going to be gearing up for that when the IndyCar Series goes there as well. So we'll see. That's probably her next best opportunity at a solid finish. So we'll see what she can do there. Now, after the ARCA West race, Hailie Deegan took to the Sonoma track for the Camping World Truck Series event. And unfortunately, her rough season continued. She blew a right side tire, ended up crashing out on the main straightaway, and was left with a 32nd place result. Obviously, it's been a very frustrating season so far for Deegan. We were just at Gateway, and she had her best finish of the season there, which was only a 15th place finish. So she is absolutely in a must-win situation if she's thinking about trying to make the playoffs. We do have a dirt race coming up at Knoxville, and that is probably the best opportunity for her. Of course, she has a dirt racing background and won a West Series race on dirt in 2019. So we'll see what she can do there. And finally, Joe, you mentioned the ARCA Menards Series. It was a combo race with ARCA East out in Iowa. Amber Balcaen and Tony Breidinger, of course, completing the full season in that series, in that division in ARCA. Balcaen picked up her third straight top 10 finish, so she's on a nice little streak there. Tony Breidinger followed close behind her in 11th, so we'll continue to monitor their seasons as ARCA continues on throughout the summer.
Yeah, third straight top 10 finish, and it seems Tony just right on the door. I believe she has 2 11th and a 12th place finish. She's so close to getting her first top 10 this year. Really exciting for them, and of course, great coverage over in Sonoma. Definitely, of course, thank you to Bridget for allowing the time to talk to us as well. Now, one of the things, unfortunately, that made the news this week was Naomi, who we've all seen on Sky F1. She was in Baku during her role as an analyst for the Formula One season. And this year, she's even have roles in Formula One TV, including Miami and other events. But in social media, we saw one person question her qualification and implied it was she got the job, unfortunately, because of her gender and that she wasn't qualified. And of course, we saw a lot of people respond back defending Naomi. She is qualified. Lewis Hamilton even responded defending her qualifications. Sky Sports F1. Everyone really united behind her. But still, Daniel, how ridiculous is this baseless claim, especially for some fans? They know her through the W Series, but for those unfamiliar with Naomi, explain how she's not only qualified, but one of the best and potentially underrated television personalities we see in motorsports.
Yeah, I do agree with what you say. I think she is quite underrated, and she has quite. She's very, very good in doing her media stuff. Of course, the fans, as you mentioned, know her from her 2019 W Series campaign. Even though she had pretty much a good resume in sports cars before, she has been racing for a long time. So definitely, I mean, we don't even need to explain why she is qualified to do that. How many former or even current racing driver has been doing media stuff and media work for TVs in other championships? I do not believe that you have to get exactly that to race in that exactly same championship in order to get the qualification to speak about it. I mean, I thought it was quite ridiculous, frankly. What has been said about her, and luckily, there's everyone stood behind her, and I hadn't the chance to speak with her when she was doing W Series and also a preseason testing this year, where she was also recording the stuff for W Series, as she's also commentating this year, and I think she's brilliant in that. We had a chat. Interestingly, we were talking about her helmet design, which is pretty cool. And she was talking about how she was inspired by Nelson Piquet or some other classic drivers in designing her own helmet. So, and that's just an example to say that she has quite a big knowledge also of the history of the sport, and she really comes off as a really intelligent person and really qualified for the job. I do not think that we have to give any different explanations or anything like that.
I 100% agree. Especially, she's been in the race car. She knows the history of the sport. I feel like this is something quite often a male television presenter, even if it's somebody that is assigned to motorsports, does not get this questioning, just really unfair and just baseless claims from just somebody that I don't know what world they're thinking in or what era, but clearly they're not exactly aware that Naomi brings so much and was just really good. And to see that everybody defended Naomi, that hey, she knows her stuff. She's more than qualified to be here, and she belongs here. Now, Ben, you follow many sports here in the United States, and there are very few female television analysis, commentators, play-by-play, or other roles hosted by women. Yes, we do see some, especially when there's a female sport going on, but with male sports, really that's pretty small number. We know Rachel Nichols, Erin Andrews, they were some of the first. They had their critics. Jamie Little, now she's hosting ARCA broadcast team, and she was one of the first to be on pit road for IndyCars and then, of course, NASCAR. How much has changed since we first saw Erin Andrews, and now we see more females on TV reporting, but still, how much progress do you believe is needed to be made?
Well, I think there actually has been some decent process, and if you bring up Jamie Little, I'm glad you did. I think she's gotten a little bit of criticism as well. It's been a lot like Vince Welch. I think, Vince Welch is obviously a very good pit reporter, but sometimes I think attracts some criticism for his work in the booth for the Camping World Truck Series. And he, of course, even has more experience than Jamie Little has. So Jamie Little is still adapting to a completely different environment, and I would argue a much tougher environment. I think play-by-play in any sport is one of the hardest things to do in broadcast media, but particularly in racing, a sport that's moving upwards of 200 miles an hour at times. And also as well, for the MAV TV broadcast, the people that do ARCA when Fox Sports 1 isn't doing it, Chris Devoda, who was at Speed Channel and NBC for a long time, she is doing the play-by-play for the MAV TV races. So the entire 20-race ARCA schedule is being done with a woman in the play-by-play role in the booth, which is, I think, an incredible sign of progress there. And I can also tell you, being here in the Philadelphia region, our Sixers play-by-play guy, Mark Zumoff, who was a legend here in the city of Philadelphia, just retired at the end of the 2021 season, and it was Kate Scott who took over. And I think, again, she attracted some criticism, maybe not even so much for her gender, but just the fact that, everybody loved Mark Zumoff, and Mark Zumoff was from Philadelphia. Kate Scott wasn't. She was coming into the city to take on the role of the Sixers. So it took a little bit of time, but I think by the end of the season, I think the fan base, generally speaking, embraced her as one of our own. And, we're excited to see what she can do in the years to come for the Philadelphia 76ers. And I'm forgetting her name. I believe the Milwaukee Bucks play-by-play analyst is a woman as well. Now I know there's one other for one of the regional sports networks in the NBA. So I think you are seeing a corner start to be turned here. I think there's certainly more opportunities opening up for women in play-by-play and in broadcasting all throughout sports here in the United States, and that's certainly something that's great to see. But clearly, as you can see with these comments here coming Naomi Schiff's way on social media, I think a lot of that is just social media trolling that everybody has to deal with. But unfortunately, it does seem like women in sports and motorsports in particular, I guess, are a little bit more of a target sometimes. So we do still have some progress to be made, but I think at the same time we can't overlook the progress that has already been made in recent years.
Yeah, a lot of progress in the recent years, still more to be done. And of course, definitely I think you brought up some great points when we're seeing more and more female roles in roles that people would traditionally think, oh, it's male only. Well, why is it male only? A female could go in there, get the job done. Of course, as we said, especially in motorsports, the car doesn't recognize gender, race, age. It just knows if you could get it to the front, it'll be up towards the front. And that's sort of the art of motorsports right there. Now we're all out of time, but we want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Be sure to follow us on social media. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter with the Grid Ranking at Grid_History. And of course, invest in the Grid Network through Patreon, monthly contribution there, or invest through Buy Me a Coffee, a one-time contribution there as well at any amount. And of course, you could even buy a drink for somebody on the air specifically. Just put it in the note. That's what we've had already from Amber, Ed, and Zach. And visit public.com, our sponsor. You get $5 in free stock to invest in the stock market on public.com. There are all sorts of tools to learn about when to invest, the terms used, and a podcast explaining all the ongoing, so you're aware of what's going on in the stock market, so you're not left in the dark. Use the referral code GridNet to get $5 in free stock. And of course, we got a busy weekend of racing coming up. We got MotoGP, Formula One, and 3 supercar races. So we'll have Grid Live Saturday, and then Sunday, Grid Live wrap up approximately 90 minutes following the conclusion of the Formula One Canadian Grand Prix. So excited to see Formula One back in Canada after a couple years away due to the pandemic. And once again, we want to thank Daniel Zeri and Ben Schneider for their time on our program today. We encourage everyone to visit BehindTheHelmet.com for a review and preview of all the races upcoming. I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time. Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GridNet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on public.com.